There are moments that are like all others, and then there are moments that stand apart, moments when time itself seems to lean forward, when history gathers its breath, when the air grows heavy with the weight of what is about to unfold. September 07, 2025 is such a moment. It is not simply another date on the turning of the calendar. It is a threshold, a line in the sand, a summons to attention. The world moves as though it will never change, as if thrones are unshakable and powers permanent. Yet every empire, every crown, every dominion has its appointed hour. The days before the flood were filled with laughter and ease until the waters rose. The night before Babylon fell was filled with feasting and pride until the kingdom collapsed. So too, this moment bears the shadow of warning and the light of revelation. It tells us that no system of man, no structure of pride, no power of corruption will stand forever. September 07 comes as a trumpet blast, not to drive us into fear, but to call us to awaken. It calls us to see through the illusions of permanence, to realize that everything that can be shaken will be shaken, and only that which is eternal will endure. It is a reminder that preparation cannot be delayed, that what is built on sand will not withstand the storm, that what is hidden will be revealed, and that what is false will fall away. But it is not only a day of warning, it is also a day of mercy, for the very shaking that terrifies is also the alarm that awakens. It is the chance to turn from the fleeting to the everlasting, from shadows to substance, from deception to truth. The storm is not sent to destroy, but to call us back, to strip away the illusions we cling to remind us of the one who alone remains when all else falls. The urgency of this hour is not in politics, not in governments, not in wealth or power. The urgency is personal. It is the call to each heart to be prepared, to be anchored, to be awake. For when the moment comes, it will not wait. The ground will shake, the veil will lift, and what has been hidden will be revealed. And then it will be seen who has built on rock and who has built on sand. There are days that pass unnoticed, days that come and go with little weight, days that vanish into memory without leaving a trace. But there are other days, days that are marked in eternity, days that stand apart from all others. They are thresholds. They are turning points. They divide what was from what will be, and they carry within them the power to alter the course of history. September 07, 2025 is such a day. It does not come as chance. It does not come as coincidence. It does not come as the empty turning of a page on a calendar. It comes as a summons. It comes as a line drawn in the sand. It comes as a threshold where illusions collapse and truth breaks forth. For too long the world has lived under illusions. Men build their towers as though they will stand forever. Nations exalt themselves as though their power will never fade. Rulers sit on their thrones as though they are gods. People pursue wealth, pleasure, and glory as though these things can last, as though they can keep death at bay, as though eternity does not wait for them. But every illusion has its appointed hour. Every falsehood has a moment when it can no longer stand. Every shadow has a time when the light will break through. And when that hour comes, everything that is not real collapses, and everything that is true is revealed. The threshold of September 07 is such an hour. It is the breaking of the facade, the tearing of the veil, the collapse of the false. For years, things have been hidden plans made in secret chambers, schemes carried out in darkness, corruptions buried under layers of power. But what is hidden cannot remain hidden forever. The decree of eternity is that there is a time for unveiling, a time when the masks fall, a time when the lies crumble. This is the nature of the threshold, that the false cannot pass through it, that only truth remains. The kingdoms of this world have always deceived themselves into believing they are eternal. The pharaohs believed Egypt would endure forever, yet its monuments lie in ruins. The kings of Babylon believed their walls would never be breached, yet they fell in a single night. The Caesars of Rome believed their empire would rule without end, yet their throne is long gone. The Soviets believed their dominion was permanent, yet it crumbled in an instant. Always the illusion rises, always the illusion falls. Always the false builds its tower, always the tower collapses. September 07 is part of that pattern. It is the day when another tower trembles, another throne shakes, another illusion shatters. But this threshold is not only about nations, it is about every life, for every man and woman lives surrounded by illusions of their own making. They live as though time will never end, as though their plans will never be interrupted, as though their possessions will remain forever. But every life, too, has its threshold, its moment when the false cannot stand, when death strips away the illusions and eternity is revealed. What happens on the larger scale in nations and kingdoms is a mirror of what happens in every soul. The day comes when the illusions collapse and truth breaks forth. The truth is that no throne of man is eternal. No empire endures forever. No wealth can save a soul. No power can stop the hand of eternity. The truth is that all flesh is grass, and all the glory of man is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, but what is eternal remains. September 07 bears witness to this truth, that everything else is shadow, everything else is passing. And when the shadows fall away, what is left is the reality that was there all along. The collapse of illusions is not meant to bring despair, but revelation. For only when the false falls can the true be seen. Only when the lies crumble can the light break forth. The collapse is painful, but it is mercy. If illusions never collapsed, men would live and die in the dream, never awakening to reality. If towers of falsehood never fell, men would trust in them forever, and their souls would be lost. The collapse is the alarm that wakes the sleeper, the storm that shakes the house, the trumpet that pierces the night. It says, "Awaken, for the hour is late. Awaken, for the time is now." And so the threshold of September 07, 2025 stands as both judgment and mercy. Judgment upon the false, mercy for the true. Judgment upon the proud, mercy for the humble. Judgment upon the lies, mercy in the revelation of truth. For those who cling to the collapsing, the day will bring terror. But for those who let go of the false and cling to the eternal, the day will bring awakening. Think of the night Babylon fell. The king and his nobles were feasting, drunk with arrogance, mocking the vessels of the Most High. They believed they were secure behind their walls, that their power was unshakable, yet that very night their kingdom was weighed in the balance and found wanting. The walls they trusted in became meaningless, the throne they gloried in was taken, the kingdom they exalted was gone. The illusion collapsed in a single moment, and truth broke forth with power. That is what happens at a threshold. That is what happens when the appointed time comes. Think of the generation of Noah. They lived as if nothing would change. They ate, they drank, they married, they built, they planned. The warnings were ignored, the signs dismissed. And then the flood came. In one moment the illusions collapsed, and the truth broke forth. The waters revealed what was real and what was false, what would endure and what would perish. So it is again. The threshold of September 07, 2025 is not given to flatter, but to reveal. It is not given to comfort illusions, but to shatter them. It is not given to preserve the false, but to expose it. It is not given to those who mock, but to those who will hear. For those who awaken, it is a gift. For those who remain asleep, it is terror. This is why the day is urgent. For when the veil is lifted, neutrality is no longer possible. When the illusions collapse, you must choose. To continue clinging to the false is to fall with it. To let go and grasp what is eternal is to endure. The threshold does not allow compromise. It does not permit half measures. It demands decision. It demands reality. It demands truth, and truth will break forth. It cannot be silenced forever. It cannot be buried forever. It cannot be denied forever. The rulers of the earth may plot against it. The nations may rage against it. The powers of men may suppress it. But truth is stronger than them all. The day comes when it rises, when it shines, when it breaks the chains and scatters the darkness. That day is the day of threshold. That day is the day of unveiling. That day is September 07, 2025. So prepare for the collapse of illusions, for the unveiling of truth, for the moment when the false can no longer stand. Prepare, not by fortifying the illusions, not by clinging harder to the collapsing, not by resisting the unveiling. Prepare by awakening, by letting go of the shadow, by turning to the light. Prepare by anchoring yourself not in the sand, but in the rock, not in the passing, but in the eternal, not in the pride of man, but in the hand of heaven. For when the threshold comes, there will be no delay. It will not wait for you to decide. It will not pause until you are ready. It will come in its time, and when it comes, the unveiling will begin. The illusions will fall away, and truth will stand revealed. And then all will see what they could not see before, and all will know what they refused to know before. The world has lived too long in shadows, the nations have trusted too long in lies, the rulers have exalted themselves too long in pride. But the threshold cannot be delayed forever. The day must come, and the day is near. September 07, 2025 is that day, the day of collapse, the day of unveiling, the day when illusions shatter and truth breaks forth. There are moments when everything that seems immovable begins to tremble. The ground that appeared solid shakes. The pillars that seemed unshakable sway. The structures that looked eternal begin to crack. These are the moments when men realize that what they trusted in is not as secure as they believed. These are the times of shaking, and yet in the shaking there is more than judgment, there is mercy. For the shaking is not only to break down, but to awaken. It comes not only to bring down what is false, but to call forth what is true. For too long people live as if their foundations will never be touched. They build their lives on wealth as though wealth were eternal, on governments as though they could never collapse, on systems as though they were everlasting, on pleasures as though they could satisfy forever. They live as though their world is unshakable, as though the foundations of their lives cannot move. But what happens when those foundations tremble? What happens when the ground beneath them is shaken? That is the moment of truth, for it reveals what is real and what is shadow. September 07, 2025 stands as such a time, a threshold marked by shaking. It is not a gentle reminder, not a subtle nudge, but a shaking meant to wake sleepers from their slumber. For a long time the world has slumbered in complacency, lulled by the illusion of permanence. People say, tomorrow will be as today, and the systems of man will hold. They forget how fragile it all is, how quickly a kingdom can crumble, how suddenly a throne can be emptied, how swiftly a life can be cut down. They forget that every empire of history that believed itself indestructible has fallen. Every tower raised in arrogance has been leveled. Every prideful foundation has been shattered. The shaking is not new. It was there in the days of Egypt, when the mightiest empire was struck by plague and darkness, and the pride of Pharaoh was humbled. It was there in the days of Babylon, when the walls that no army could penetrate became meaningless before the decree of heaven. It was there in the days of Rome, when the empire that ruled the known world trembled and fell into ruin. And it will be again, for every age must be reminded that no throne of man is eternal, no kingdom of man is unshakable, no power of flesh can stand forever. But the shaking is not only for nations, it is for individuals. Every man builds his life on something, some on wealth, some on power, some on success, some on pleasure, some on their own strength, some on others. But when the shaking comes, all these foundations tremble. Wealth vanishes, power crumbles, success fades, pleasure turns bitter, strength fails, others disappoint. The shaking strips it all away, until only the eternal remains. That is the mercy of the shaking, that it forces the eyes of man to turn from the shadow to the substance, from the temporal to the eternal. There are those who curse the shaking, who resist it, who fight against it. They see it only as destruction, as loss, as chaos. And indeed, it brings all these things. But those who have eyes to see will know that it is also a gift. For if there were no shaking, men would remain forever bound to illusions. If the foundations never trembled, men would never awaken to the reality that their lives rest on sand. If the pillars never swayed, the sleepers would never rise from their slumber. The shaking is like the storm that reveals the house built on sand. The storm is not gentle, it tears down what cannot stand, but in so doing it reveals the truth of what was built, the truth of where the foundation lay. And though it may be painful, it is better to have the illusion shattered now than to have it shatter in the end. It is better to be awakened by shaking in this life than to remain asleep until eternity. This is the purpose of September 07, 2025, that what is shakeable will be shaken, so that what cannot be shaken will remain. The world depends on things that are destined to tremble. Economies rise and fall, governments ascend and collapse, markets surge and crash, rulers come and go. These are the things men cling to as if they were eternal. Yet every chart of history shows their instability. Every age testifies to their collapse. Every nation proves their fragility. They are sand, not rock. They are shadow, not substance. And yet in every age there are those who awaken through the shaking. When the world crumbles, they lift their eyes to what is eternal. When thrones collapse, they turn to the throne that cannot fall. When towers tumble, they look to the rock that cannot be moved. When kingdoms shatter, they cling to the kingdom that has no end. These are the ones who see mercy in the shaking. These are the ones who hear the voice within the tremor. These are the ones who awaken when the world is rocked. Think of the prodigal son. He lived in illusions, in pleasure, in indulgence, in the pursuit of all that fades. As long as his money lasted, his illusions held. As long as the structure of his world remained, he was blind. But then came the shaking. The money was gone, the pleasures vanished, the friends disappeared, the famine struck. His world collapsed. Yet it was in that collapse, in that shaking, that his eyes opened. He awakened to the truth. He saw where he was. He saw what he had left. He saw what was real. The shaking that seemed his destruction was in fact his salvation. So it is with nations, with kingdoms, with men. The shaking is harsh, but it is grace. It breaks to awaken. It shatters to save. It removes the false so that the true may be seen. On September 07, 2025, the world will stand on the edge of such a shaking. What has seemed immovable will tremble. What has seemed unshakable will sway. What has seemed eternal will crack. And in that moment, people will be faced with a choice. They can curse the shaking, resist it, cling to what is falling, and be swept away with it. Or they can let go, open their eyes, and awaken. The shaking forces the choice. It does not allow neutrality. It says, "Awaken or fall, turn or perish, choose truth or be swallowed by illusion." The shaking also reveals hearts. Some will harden themselves against it, as Pharaoh hardened his heart after each plague. They will see the signs, feel the trembling, experience the collapse, and yet cling even tighter to their pride. But others will be broken by it. Others will humble themselves. Others will hear the trumpet within the quake and awaken to the eternal. The shaking separates the proud from the humble, the blind from the seeing, the false from the true. We live in an age that has exalted itself in arrogance, an age that has built towers of technology as though they can save, towers of wealth as though they can protect, towers of power as though they can endure. But every tower of man will fall, every false security will collapse, every illusion will shatter, and the shaking is the mercy that makes it known before the end. Do not fear the shaking. Fear only sleeping through it, for the shaking is not the end. It is the wake-up call. It is the alarm before the dawn. It is the storm before the clearing. It is the tremor that says, "Do not cling to what is passing, cling to what is eternal." Do not build on sand, build on the rock. Do not trust in what can be lost, trust in what cannot be taken. And when the shaking comes, when the pillars tremble, when the structures collapse, those who have awakened will stand, for they are anchored not to the shakeable, but to the unshakable. They are rooted not in the temporal, but in the eternal. They are bound not to the shadow, but to the substance. And though the world crumbles around them, they will endure. This is the mercy hidden in the shaking. This is the gift within the quake. It awakens the sleeper, it humbles the proud, it reveals the false, it calls to the eternal. September 07, 2025 is such a moment, a day when the world will tremble, but in the trembling comes the chance to awaken. In the collapse comes the invitation to turn. In the shaking comes the mercy to see. There comes a moment when the storm gathers on the horizon and the winds begin to rise, when the clouds darken, when the air grows heavy, and it becomes clear that the time of waiting is over. The wise man does not wait for the full fury of the storm before seeking shelter. He prepares. He does not delay until the lightning strikes or the floodwaters rise. He acts before it is too late. So it is with life. There is a call to preparation, to readiness, to setting one's house in order before the day of shaking arrives. On September 07, 2025, the call will go forth louder than before, and the question will be asked, "Are you prepared?" For the danger of man is not only that the world shakes around him, but that he is caught unprepared when it does. When the towers fall, when the systems crumble, when the ground trembles beneath his feet, the unprepared are swept away in panic. They run to and fro with no anchor, no refuge, no shelter, but those who are prepared stand firm. They may be surrounded by the storm, but they are not undone by it. What does it mean to be prepared? It is not the preparation of storing up silver and gold, for silver and gold will perish. It is not the preparation of building fortresses of brick and stone, for fortresses fall. It is not even the preparation of stockpiling goods, for goods can vanish in a moment. True preparation is deeper. True preparation begins within. It is the setting of the heart, the ordering of the soul, the turning of one's life to the eternal. It is the recognition that all things that can be lost will be lost, and therefore the only wisdom is to anchor oneself in what cannot be lost. Every man has a house. For some it is the house of flesh, the life they live. For others, it is the house of family, the bonds and connections they hold. For others, it is the house of possessions, the structures they build and the treasures they guard. But all houses must be tested. And the storm reveals whether the house was built on sand or rock. The call is to examine the foundations of one's house. What is it built upon? Is it upon the shifting sand of pride, of wealth, of self, of man's power? Or is it upon the rock that cannot be moved? The storm will reveal it, the shaking will expose it, and only that which is anchored to the eternal will endure. Preparation is not passive. It is not something accomplished by accident or chance. It requires choice, deliberate turning, intentional action. The house does not put itself in order. The foundation does not anchor itself. The preparation is a call to rise, to examine, to act. It is the call to remove what is corrupt, to cast off what is false, to strip away what is temporary. It is the call to let go of what does not endure, so that one may cling to what does. There are those who spend their days filling their barns, thinking themselves wise in preparation. But the barns are filled with what moth eats, what rust corrupts, what thief can steal, what fire consumes. And when the storm comes, the barns will not stand. What good is a barn filled with riches if the soul is empty? What good is a house of stone if the foundation is crumbling? What good is a tower of wealth if the heart is bankrupt? The true preparation is not the filling of barns, but the filling of the heart with what is eternal. Preparation means repentance, the turning away from the path that leads to destruction. For the storm exposes the path. It brings every man to the end of his road. The one who has walked the road of pride will see it collapse into ruin. The one who has walked the road of greed will find it vanishing in emptiness. The one who has walked the road of indulgence will discover it dissolving into ash. But the one who has turned, who has sought the way of truth, will find that the shaking cannot undo him. Preparation means reconciliation. To set one's house in order is not only to turn from false foundations, but to heal what has been broken. For when the storm comes, regrets rise like floodwaters. Words left unsaid, forgiveness left unspoken, love withheld, reconciliation delayed. These rise in the moment of shaking to torment the soul. But preparation redeems the time. It calls to forgive, to release bitterness, to restore what was torn. It calls to make peace while there is time. Preparation means simplicity. The one who prepares strips away what cannot be carried through the storm. He does not cling to clutter. He does not burden himself with excess. He travels light, for he knows that the storm will strip away all that weighs him down. The wise traveler carries only what is necessary, and the wise soul holds only what is eternal. Preparation means watchfulness. The one who prepares does not sleep as the storm gathers. He does not say, "Tomorrow will be as today. There is no need to act." He watches, he discerns the signs of the times. He hears the trumpet in the distance and does not dismiss it as noise. He feels the trembling beneath his feet and does not explain it away. He watches and he acts because he knows the danger of delay. Delay is the enemy of preparation. To say, "Tomorrow I will act," is to risk that tomorrow will not come. Preparation is also separation. The one who prepares separates himself from what is corrupt, from what is destined to fall. He does not tie his life to the sinking ship. He does not bind his soul to the collapsing tower. He steps away from the illusions, from the vanities, from the deceits of man. He is in the world, but he is not bound to it. And because he is not bound, when the shaking comes, he is not destroyed with it. Think of the days of Noah. The people ate, drank, bought, sold, planted, built as if nothing would ever change. But Noah prepared. He built while others mocked. He set his house in order while others pursued pleasure. And when the flood came, his preparation was revealed. The same storm that destroyed the unprepared preserved him. The same waters that swept others away lifted him up. His preparation was the dividing line between destruction and salvation. So it will be again. The world will continue as though tomorrow is guaranteed. Men will go on buying and selling, planning and building, chasing and grasping, even as the storm clouds gather. But the one who is wise will not wait until the rain begins to fall. He will prepare. He will set his house in order. He will anchor himself in what cannot be moved. September 07, 2025 is a call to every soul. Prepare. Examine your house, look to your foundation, ask what you are clinging to. If it can be lost, it will be. If it can be shaken, it will fall. If it can be taken, it will vanish. Only that which is eternal will stand. Anchor yourself there. Set your heart there. Build your house upon the rock. Do not say you have no need to prepare. The unprepared always say such things. They say, I have tomorrow, but tomorrow is not promised. They say, my foundations are secure. But their foundations are sand. They say the storm will not come, but the storm always comes. The time to prepare is not tomorrow, but now. The time to act is not when the shaking arrives, but before it does. And preparation is not merely survival. It is not only about enduring the storm, it is about transformation. The one who prepares is not merely saved from destruction. He is changed, his house is ordered, his heart is purified, his life is aligned with what is eternal. The storm comes and he is not the same. He emerges refined, strengthened, anchored more deeply than before. The preparation is not just for the storm of a day or the collapse of a system. It is for eternity. For every storm of history points to the final storm. Every shaking points to the ultimate shaking. Every collapse points to the end of all things. To prepare now is to prepare for then. To set one's house in order now is to be ready when the ultimate day comes. This is the mercy of the call. The shaking warns before the final shaking. The storm comes before the ultimate storm. The collapse before the final collapse. And in each there is the voice saying, prepare, turn, awaken, anchor yourself in what will not pass away. So hear the call of September 07, 2025. Do not waste it. Do not ignore it. Do not dismiss it. Set your house in order. Examine your foundation. Release what is passing. Cling to what is eternal. Prepare. For when the storm comes, those who are prepared will not fall. Their house will stand. Their soul will endure. Their anchor will hold. And in the shaking, they will not only survive, they will shine. When all is said and done, the message that has sounded again and again is this: the storm is coming, and every life will be tested. The shaking will reveal what is built on sand and what is anchored in rock. Nations may rise and fall, empires may crumble, systems may collapse, but the call that matters is personal. It is the call to awaken, to turn, to set your house in order before the day arrives. September 07, 2025 is not simply a date on the calendar. It is a trumpet blast, a summons, a warning, and a mercy. It is a reminder that time is not infinite, that tomorrow is not promised, that delay is the enemy of preparation. It is a chance to choose life, to let go of what will not endure, and to hold fast to what cannot be shaken. Those who hear and act will not be swept away when the storm breaks. They will stand even as the world trembles, because their foundation is sure. They will shine even in the darkness, because their light does not come from the world, but from what is eternal. And in the end, when all else is shaken into dust, they will endure. So the call goes forth now. Awaken, prepare, return, and anchor yourself in what will never pass away. For the storm will come, but those who are ready will stand unshaken.